All right, so welcome class to chapter 22, where it talks about evolution. The outline of this chapter will go through the evolution of life, the scale of evolutionary change, the evidence of evolution, and then human evolution. And like usual, we'll keep these PowerPoints shorter, and I'll just focus on a few key things. You can read through here, evolution is the descent with modification from a common ancestor. They say the Earth is estimated to be about 4.5 billion years old, and that the environment of the early Earth was very different from that of today. If we look here, you can see a picture of what is suggested by that, what it might have looked like. Chemical evolution is life evolving from chemicals, possible steps involving inorganic molecules, then small organic macromolecules, early cells, and multicellular organisms. These are small organic molecules that would have formed first. This is a chamber in a lab that two men tried to recreate what could have happened from these chemicals that would have been created first. Macromolecules and early cells, organic macromolecules aggregated into droplets, which were precursors to living cells. You should be familiar what the endosymbiote theory means. These are some organelles within eukaryotic cells were once free-living prokaryotes. And this is just a look how inorganic molecules could have gone into multicellular eukaryotic organisms. You should understand what microevolution is versus macroevolution. Microevolution are changes at the genetic level, and macroevolution are larger scale evolutionary changes over longer periods of time. Basic terms in microevolution you should be familiar with are population, which is a group of individuals of the same species living in a particular area, and gene pool includes all of the alleles of all of the genes of all individuals in a population. I'll let you read through this. Mutation produces new genes and new alleles, and that occurs at an extremely low rate in any set of genes. And we talked about what can cause a mutation, just a mispairing of one base pair in the DNA. You should be familiar with these processes that lead to microevolution: genetic drift, gene flow, mutation, and natural selection. I'll let you guys read through these. Genetic drift, two mechanisms that facilitate it are the bottleneck effect and the founder effect. And I'll let you guys read through those on your own. Gene flow occurs when individuals move into and out of a population and interbreed with the resident population. So cessation of gene flow can be important in formation of new species. The word species refers to a population or a group of population whose members are capable of successful interbreeding under natural conditions to produce fertile offspring. Speciation refers to populations becoming separated. They may become genetically distinct and no longer capable of successful interbreeding, and this will result in the formation of a new species. Mutations, as we're aware of, are changes in the DNA of genes. They will produce new alleles that, when passed on to the gametes, the egg and the sperm, cause an immediate change in the gene pool. Natural selection, this was the theory based from Charles Darwin on the origin of species that he wrote in 1859. He said that species are not specifically created unchanging forms, that modern species are descendants of ancestral species, and evolution occurs by this idea of natural selection, or the survival of the fittest will most likely survive. So I'll let you read through more of this on natural selection. And the big thing here is to note that it focuses on that some individuals leave more surviving offspring than others because of their particular inherited characteristics, make them better suited to their local environment. The word fitness compares the number of reproductively viable offspring among individuals, and individuals with greater fitness have more of their genes represented in future generations. Adaptations Through this idea of natural selection, populations become better suited to their environment. Natural selection does not lead to perfection. It can act on available variation only. It can modify existing structures only. The organisms cannot be perfect at everything. They may face other external competing advantages, so adaptations are often compromises. So I'd encourage you to really watch these videos well and hear. Macroevolution is large-scale evolutionary change over long periods of time. Linnaeus developed a Latin binomial scheme for naming organisms, which we still use today. The genus name is followed by the specific epithet, and both are italicized. So for us, we are called Homo sapiens. So this two-worded binomial Latin scheme is a name that we use to name all the organisms. Linnaeus also developed a system for classifying organisms into a series of increasingly broad categories, beginning with species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom, and domain was added later as the most broad category. You should know this order of categories. So this shows you the order beginning with the domain, and specifically we're looking at eukaryotes, and then specifying into the kingdom, which we're trying to get down to us, so Animalia, the phylum, the subphylum, class, order, family, genus, and then species. So this is where we get our Latin binomial name, Homo sapiens. Phylogenetic trees are branching diagrams that depict hypotheses about evolutionary relationships among species or groups, and I'll let you guys work through these. These are the records or sources that they create these from. The fossil record, geographic distributions, comparative molecular biology, comparative anatomy, and embryology. Fossils are preserved remnants and impressions of past organisms. And fossilization occurs as the hard body parts such as bones, teeth, and shells become impregnated with minerals surrounding water and sediment. And eventually the sediments may be uplifted by geological processes exposing the fossil. So these are some cool fossils they have found. A spider preserved in amber and an ancient act of predation preserved in sedimentary rocks, which is just amazing to me to see that. Pretty cool. So this is the idea of how fossils are formed. My daughter would be thrilled to learn about this because she was just asking me about fossils the other day. So an organism will die underwater, and then layers of sediment will accumulate on top of it. The hard parts of the organism become impregnated with minerals, and then they'll be uplifted later due to erosion exposure or geological efforts to expose the fossil. The fossil record you can read about. Their extinct organisms show similarities to and differences from living species. Biogeography is the study of geographic distributions of organisms. You can see here fossils that were found, what they look like, and where they were found. New distributions of organisms occur by two basic mechanisms: dispersal, where organisms move to new areas, and areas occupied by organisms will move or are subdivided. So this just shows the dispersal or subsequent drifting of continents that they say could have allowed for the dispersal of some of these animals that began possibly in Eurasia and ending up in Australia, as we look at things like kangaroos or koalas. Comparative molecular biology, this is the molecular clock hypothesis. It's based on the assumption that point mutations in DNA occur at a constant rate, and the more differences in the DNA sequences between two organisms, the more time that has collapsed since the common ancestor. So this is a hypothesis. Comparative anatomy looks at homologous structures that are similar. So these are structures that are similar and probably arose from a common ancestry. You can see them listed here, and I'll let you guys look at that. Another video to watch. More homologous structures. Convergent evolution versus with analogous structures. So convergent evolution is when two organisms evolve similar structures because of similar ecological roles and selection pressures. And their analogous structures are structures that are similar because of convergent evolution. One example of this is all vertebrate embryos look very similar early in development as shown in this picture. Here's another video on Charles Darwin. Human evolution. This is the theory that humans' roots trace back to the first primates. And I'll let you guys read through this, what the primate characteristics might have looked like. The order of the primates, the suborder, and seeing this table of the primates. Comparisons of human and chimp skeletal anatomy. Many aspects of human skeletal anatomy reflect our terrestrial lifestyle and upright stance while walking. And this is we call it bipedalism, which is walking on 2 feet. This provides us with an S-shaped spine. So our back is not completely straight. It's S-shaped or curved to allow for us to support the weight of our upper body over our 2 legs. The large patella, which is our kneecap. Arms are shorter than the legs, and the toes are not opposable, meaning your thumbs are opposable. Your thumb can touch your fingers, but your toes cannot. So this is what we call bipedalism, walking on 2 feet. Here are some common misconceptions and facts that I'll let you guys read through. Trends in the human evolution you can see here. And I'll let you guys look through the oldest remains of the humans that they have said to be found, a remarkably complete skeleton of Lucy, and then reconstruction of Lucy. This is available to see at the St. Louis Zoo. Here's another species within the genus. And I'll let you guys read through all of these as you're working through Homo sapiens when we get to the thinking man. And the oldest fossil evidence for modern humans comes from Africa about 130,000 years ago. The characteristics of a thinking or modern man were the larger brain, the flat forehead, the absent or small brow ridges, prominent chin, and very slender body form compared to the other theories of the older man that existed that you guys will look at. Here are the Neanderthals, which they say lived in caves. There was social structure. And they I think there's a picture coming up here. They lived in groups. They were hunters and artists. This is kind of a redescription of what they may have looked like. So here's a review of some milestones in human evolution. More milestones showing how the present modern human skull looks compared to the past. 2 hypotheses, so 2 theories or hypotheses for the evolution of modern humans. Multi-regional hypothesis means multiple origins, so they evolved independently in different places, or out of Africa hypothesis is a single origin, and then they migrated out. At the end of this chapter or section, you should be able to do these things. Thank you for listening. We just have 2 chapters left in this coursework.